The window across the room catches the faintest glow of the moon, and a subtle breeze drifts through, brushing against your skin like a gentle reminder that the world outside moves at its own pace, and it does not need your consent to do so. The air carries the faint scent of distant rain, damp earth, and something indefinable that feels like home. You realize that you've been rushing through life in ways you didn't even notice, letting minutes slip past as though each one were a test to endure rather than a gift to inhabit. But tonight, the window is patient. It allows the air to enter softly, curling around your shoulders and brushing past your hair, bringing with it the quiet lesson that time does not need to be conquered. You can simply exist, and in existing, you are complete. Your thoughts begin to drift like the gentle breeze, not forced, not pushed, just following their natural path. And you understand that peace comes not from changing the world, but from letting the...
Now, let us begin. The night had settled with a softness rarely seen in the waking hours, the kind that wraps itself around every shape and corner and turns the world into something dim, gentle, and unhurried. A long hallway stretched ahead, bathed in silver moonlight spilling in through narrow windows. Dust floated lazily through the beams of light, each particle drifting as though time itself had slowed enough for even the smallest things to rest. At the end of that hallway stood a single wooden door. Old, with softened edges, its surface marked by time, its hinges quiet, almost shy. The air around it held a hum, a silent promise, a gentle presence that didn't demand attention but invited it all the same. For years, the wanderer had walked past this door, always assuming it led to something closed, something forbidden, something not meant to be entered. And each time he felt a small tightening in his chest, a silent whisper telling him, not tonight, not yet. But tonight was different. Tonight, the door seemed to wait patiently, almost knowingly. Not in a way that pressured him, but with a warmth that hinted, "You can try. I've never been locked." The wanderer approached, heartbeat slow and steady, the moonlight brushing his steps like soft fingertips. For a moment, he simply stood there, breathing, noticing how many years he had carried the weight of assumptions without ever testing them. Perhaps this was how most people lived, held back not by real barriers, but imagined ones. His hand hovered over the handle, feeling the quiet invitation of possibility, and then, gently, he reached forward.
The wood of the door felt warm beneath his fingertips, not cold as he had expected. There was a softness to it, a kind of aged familiarity, as though countless hands had touched it before him, each one hesitant, each one eventually discovering the same simple truth. The wanderer swallowed, a mixture of curiosity and quiet vulnerability settling into his chest. For so long he had imagined this door represented something larger, a symbol of all the fears he wasn't ready to face. But now, standing this close, it felt smaller, gentler, almost kind. He closed his fingers around the handle, not forcing, not twisting, simply feeling. And in that moment he realized something surprising. The handle moved under the slightest pressure. It wasn't stiff, it wasn't locked. It yielded instantly, effortlessly, like a leaf bending beneath a light breeze. A breath escaped him, not dramatic, not heavy, just a quiet exhale of understanding. The weight he'd been carrying was made of thoughts, not reality. The obstacle had never been the door, but the assumptions he held about it. He pressed lightly, barely more than a whisper of movement, and the door eased open. No resistance, no struggle, just a soft, gentle motion, like the world itself had been waiting for him to notice it was safe to step forward. A warm stillness washed over him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something unexpected. He felt free.
Beyond the doorway lay a room painted in quiet shades of shadow and moonlight. The air inside felt untouched by urgency, holding the same patient energy as a calm river before dawn. A single lantern rested on a wooden table, unlit yet glowing faintly with reflected moonlight. The walls were lined with shelves filled not with books or artifacts, but with space. Spaciousness that invited the mind to breathe a little deeper. The wanderer stepped inside slowly, listening to the gentle creak of old wood beneath his feet. Nothing in the room demanded anything of him. Nothing asked him to achieve, understand, or perform. Instead, the space simply received him, soft, open, accepting. He realized something powerful in that moment. He had always assumed this room held something overwhelming, something he wasn't prepared for. Yet what greeted him was serenity, ease, and an invitation to rest. He sat down beside the lantern, placing his hand on its handle. It felt cool, smooth, weightless. And as he inhaled, he noticed how spacious his chest felt, as though the air itself had expanded within him. He wasn't here to solve anything. He wasn't here to confront anything. He was here to see the truth that had always been waiting. Most fears dissolve the moment we stop running from them. And so he stayed, quietly, allowing the room to settle around him.
You step deeper into the quiet wooden house, letting the faint creak beneath your feet guide the rhythm of your breath. The hallway stretches before you, long and dim, lit only by the pale moonlight slipping through thin paper windows. It feels as if it has been waiting, not for anyone, but specifically for you. The air carries the scent of old cedar, warm and familiar, like something from a memory you never lived, but somehow recognize. Each step you take is unhurried, soft, and deliberate, and the silence around you settles against your shoulders like a gentle shawl. You realize there is no rush here, no deadlines, no one expecting anything from you. Just the quiet truth of your presence and the hallway that leads you gently onward. For the first time in a long while, your body feels like it belongs exactly where it stands.
Halfway down the hallway, a door sits slightly ajar. Not enough to show what's inside, just enough to invite curiosity without pressure. Your hand rises slowly, guided not by urgency, but by a quiet understanding. The wooden handle is smooth, worn by time, shaped by countless hands before yours. Yet as your fingers rest on it, it strangely feels like it was carved for your grip alone. You pause. You breathe. You listen. And in that stillness, you notice something. The barrier you felt wasn't the door. It was the hesitation you carried. You let that hesitation soften, and the handle grows warmer under your palm. Not a magical warmth, just the warmth that comes when you finally meet something you've avoided for too long. You gently push. The door doesn't resist. It doesn't groan. It doesn't challenge you. It simply opens, as if it had been waiting for the exhale you didn't even know you were holding. Warm light spills through the widening gap, not bright, not sharp, but soft, golden, like candlelight seen through thin cloth. The room feels peaceful before you even enter it, a place untouched by urgency, a place that doesn't demand explanations, a place where your breath is enough. You step inside, and the door settles behind you with a hush. Not locked, never locked, just quietly closed, the way night closes around the moon. The floor cushions slightly as you sit, as though it has memorized the shape of anyone who has ever rested here. A woven mat sits under you, warmed by the gentle air drifting in from a small window overlooking the moonlit river. You let your eyes soften. You let your shoulders fall. You let your breath stretch out without force. And the room receives you. Not as a guest, not a stranger, but as someone who has finally returned from a long journey. You realize something quietly, almost shyly. You didn't come here to solve anything. You came here to stop pretending you had to. This room, this moment, this calm, it doesn't ask for perfection, just honesty, just presence, just you. The night outside deepens, and somewhere in the distance a lone nightbird calls, a reminder that even in darkness, life continues softly, unhurried, unafraid. You sit quietly, letting the room's stillness weave itself into your chest. For a long moment, nothing moves except your breath. Slow, steady, gentle. It feels different now. Less like something you're doing, and more like something that's happening to you. You notice how each inhale arrives with patience. How each exhale leaves with its own soft weight. It's a rhythm you didn't create. You simply returned to it. The world outside the window continues in silence. The river gliding beneath the moon.
the leaves trembling with the faintest night breeze, the distant call of some nocturnal creature making its way across the dark. And here you are, finally matching the pace of a world that never hurried in the first place. A quiet truth settles into your chest. Peace doesn't appear when life becomes easy. It appears when you stop treating your breath like a race. Your gaze drifts to the small lantern resting beside you. Its flame flickers not in fear, but in curiosity, as if it recognizes your presence and responds in its own language of light. With every shift in the flame, shadows dance gently along the walls, not haunting, not heavy, just moving in a rhythm that calms rather than startles. You watch the glow soften, and for the first time in a while, your thoughts don't rush to meet the next worry. Instead, your mind moves like the flame, slow, warm, unforced. The lantern wasn't brighter when you walked in. It didn't change. You did. Sometimes the world becomes softer the moment you stop expecting it to be harsh.
The silence of the room deepens, not empty, not hollow, but full of meaning you can't explain, only feel. There is a type of quiet that feels like loneliness, but this isn't that. This is the quiet that meets you like a friend who sits beside you without demanding words. It tells you, without speaking, you've carried too much. You've held yourself too tightly. You can put it down now. Your breath eases again. Your eyelids grow heavier, not from exhaustion, but from relief. The quiet becomes your teacher tonight, not by giving answers, but by showing you how little you needed them. A small shift happens inside you, so small it doesn't shake anything, but deep enough to be felt. You realize the obstacles you believed stood between you and peace were mostly built from thoughts you never questioned. Every what if, every not enough, every maybe later had shaped themselves into invisible walls, walls you forgot you created. But sitting here in this calm, lantern-lit room, you see the truth clearly. The door was never locked, the way was never blocked, the noise was never permanent. It was your own inner rush that made everything feel so far away. And as that realization settles into your bones, quietly, gently, you feel something inside you unlock without effort. Your body softens once more, your shoulders sinking, your breath deepening, your heartbeat slowing into an easy, steady rhythm. There is no need to chase sleep. There is no need to pull relaxation toward you. The room does it for you. The warmth does it for you. The quiet does it for you. Rest arrives not as a command, but as a visitor stepping through a doorway you finally opened. You didn't summon it, you allowed it. And that small difference changes everything. You sit there, still wrapped in the soft glow of the lantern, when your attention drifts toward the old wooden door across the room. It hasn't moved, hasn't opened, hasn't creaked, and yet it carries a presence, quiet, patient,
almost aware. For years, you've treated doors like barriers, something to struggle with, something to push against, something that decides whether you are let in or kept out. But this one feels different. It feels less like something blocking your path and more like something waiting for you to notice it. Its grain catches the moonlight in gentle strokes. Its frame leans slightly with the age of a place that has seen many nights, many doubts, many quiet travelers searching for peace. And for the first time, you wonder if some doors don't need knocking at all. Some are meant to open only when you stop assuming they are closed. A soft thought rises within you. Maybe what I've been waiting for has been waiting for me too.
As you breathe deeper, a memory rises, one you've carried for so long that it began to feel like part of you. Not painful enough to break you, but heavy enough to follow you. You don't relive it fully. You don't need to. The night understands that some memories deserve gentler handling. Instead, it lets you look at the weight of it from a distance, like a traveler glancing at something they've outgrown. You feel the subtle ache of holding on to something long after it's stopped serving your journey. The river outside moves slowly, as though reminding you everything flows when you stop gripping it. And with each breath, the memory loosens, not erased, not forced away, but finally allowed to drift downstream to wherever forgotten burdens gently go. A warmth spreads across your chest, not from the lantern, but from the quiet certainty forming inside you. You always thought peace was something ahead, something to chase, to work toward, to earn. But sitting here, in this softened night, you notice something unmistakable. You've already taken the first step. The moment you paused, the moment you breathed, the moment you stopped fighting the noise in your mind, that was the doorway. That was the shift. That was the beginning. Peace doesn't arrive with a grand entrance. It enters like a shadow, like a soft breath, like a quiet truth settling inside you. You're already closer than you think.
A subtle creak touches the air, so delicate you almost miss it. The old wooden door, the one you thought was merely decoration in this quiet room, moves on its own. Not wide, not dramatically, just enough. Enough for you to know one thing with absolute clarity. It was never locked. It was never meant to keep you out. It was waiting for this moment. The moment when your mind softened, when your breath slowed, when your thoughts stopped crowding the space where peace needed to enter. You didn't open the door. Your stillness did. Sometimes the world doesn't answer your force. It answers your quiet. Beyond the slight opening, you glimpse something faint, a corridor, bathed in soft moonlight, stretching into gentle darkness. It isn't clear. It isn't fully visible. And strangely, that doesn't worry you. For once, you don't need the full picture. You don't need certainty. You don't need a guarantee of where it leads. All you need is the quiet trust blooming inside you, a trust that matches the stillness of the lantern flame, the steadiness of the river, the patience of the night. You feel the path calling not with urgency, but with understanding. It knows you've waited long enough. It knows you're ready. And for the first time, you step forward without hesitation. Not because you know where you're going, but because you finally know where to begin.
As you walk further into the corridor, you sense a warm glow brushing lightly against your back. Turning slightly, you notice the lantern you left behind on the small wooden table. It hasn't stayed behind. Its light extends into the hallway, stretching itself outward as if drawn to your movement, as though it refuses to let you wander in dimness. You didn't carry it physically, but somehow it carries you, its soft warmth following like a presence that understands you don't need brilliance to guide you, just enough light to keep your doubts from growing shadows. You don't question how the glow reaches this far. Some things are not understood through logic, but through quiet permission. You allowed yourself to move, and the light decided that was enough reason to come along. The corridor bends slightly, a gentle curve rather than a sharp turn, and you realize how different this journey feels from the hurried paths you've walked in your waking life. There is no pressure here, no need to rush toward an outcome, no invisible clock ticking in the back of your mind. The world outside often demands progress that must be seen, measured, compared, proven. But here, the slightest change of direction feels like an entire horizon shifting quietly on your behalf. You place your hand along the wall as you turn, feeling the texture of time-worn wood, solid, warm, familiar in a way you cannot explain. Every step feels like an invitation, every breath like an agreement between you and the night that this journey does not need to be dramatic to matter. Sometimes, turning is simply choosing not to stay where you've already exhausted your heart. As the corridor opens into a wider space, you find yourself standing at the threshold of a small room bathed in a tender shade of moonlit silver. It feels like a place suspended between the world of thought and the world of rest. Nothing here demands your attention. Everything simply exists, quietly aligned as though it has been waiting for someone who moves at your pace, breathes at your frequency, listens with your type of silence. There is a cushion on the floor, shaped slightly as though someone once sat there for years in gentle contemplation. A wooden bowl rests nearby, filled with smooth river stones, each one carrying its own silent memory of water. And though you've never been here, the room feels strangely familiar. Not because you recognize the objects, but because the space recognizes you. Your breath, your quiet, your fatigue, your longing for something simple and steady. You step inside and nothing shifts, because this room has always made space for travelers who finally choose to set their burdens down.
You lower yourself onto the cushion, feeling it accept your weight with a soft, comforting give, not pulling you downward, but welcoming you closer to the floor, closer to stillness. Your breath deepens without being forced, as though your body has been waiting for this exact moment to release all the subtle tensions you didn't even know you were carrying. The kind you accumulate from years of thinking you must hold the world together by yourself. Here,
in this gentle room, surrounded by quiet wood and soft moonlight, you discover a breath that feels deeper than the ones before. A breath that doesn't just fill your lungs, it fills the space beneath your ribs where old worries once lived. A breath that doesn't just calm your mind, it reminds your spirit that rest is not something to earn, it is something to return to. And for the first time in a long time, you exhale without holding anything back. As you sit with that deepening breath, you notice something shift inside you, not in a dramatic way, but subtly, like a knot loosening itself after years of quiet strain. The weight you've been carrying doesn't suddenly vanish, but it softens. It becomes lighter in the way a cloud becomes less threatening when the wind changes direction. You're not trying to fix anything. You're simply allowing yourself to be still for long enough that the hardness of your worries begins to melt on its own. You realize the heaviness was never in the world outside. It was in the constant gripping, the constant holding, the constant believing that everything depended on you alone. Now, in this room that expects nothing of you, the weight shifts. It becomes less of a burden and more of a memory. Not gone, but transformed. Like a stone in your pocket that suddenly feels warm instead of cold. Whatever you carried into this space no longer defines you. It simply rests beside you, no longer pressing against your ribs or chasing your thoughts. You breathe again, deeper than before, and the night seems to exhale with you. There's a small window near the corner of the room, its frame softened by age, its glass glowing faintly with the moon's quiet attention. You're not sure whether it was open before, or if it gently shifted ajar while you sat here. But now, a thin ribbon of night air flows through it, cool and fresh, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and distant river water. The air brushes against your skin like a reminder that the world outside continues to move, not in chaos, but in cycles that are older and steadier than anything your mind has worried about. The window doesn't invite you to look outward. Instead, it lets the outside world come to you, softly, without pressure. Through that subtle breeze, you feel connected to something broader than the walls around you, a reminder that stillness is not isolation, it is alignment. The open window teaches you quietly. Sometimes you don't need to push open what is closed. Some doors, some paths, some solutions open on their own when you finally stop forcing them.
The silence in the room deepens, not the empty kind that feels lonely, but the full kind that feels alive, like a calm presence sitting beside you. It's a silence that doesn't demand, doesn't rush, doesn't measure. Instead, it reaches toward you gently, settling into the spaces between your thoughts. You begin to realize how rarely you allow this kind of silence into your life. Not because it isn't available, but because your mind is always loud, always moving, always trying to fill every quiet moment with reason or fear or planning. But this silence feels different. It speaks without words, reminding you of things you forgot you already knew, that rest doesn't require permission, that stillness doesn't mean weakness, that peace doesn't arrive from outside, but from the space you create within. The silence teaches you without teaching. simply by letting itself be felt, and you, without effort, begin to lean into it. The silence becomes less of a visitor and more of a companion. You look toward the far wall, where the lantern's glow creates a soft, wavering shadow of your form. For so long in your life, shadows have often felt like burdens, reflections of mistakes, fears, old stories that follow you no matter how far you walk. But here, the shadow looks gentle, harmless, almost curious. It moves softly with your breath, not as something attached to you, but as something simply sharing space with you. For the first time, you realize that not all shadows are threats. Some are reminders of your own depth. The lantern light flickers, and the shadow shifts, but it doesn't loom. It simply exists. You understand then that the things you feared in yourself were not monsters. They were just unacknowledged parts, waiting to be seen without judgment. Here, the shadow does not define you. It accompanies you quietly, like proof that even in dimness, you hold shape, presence, meaning. And in that realization, a long-held tension loosens. The fear of who you've been and who you thought you had to outrun. As you settle deeper into the cushion, the room seems to grow warmer, not in temperature, but in feeling. A soft heaviness gathers around your shoulders, your hands, your eyelids, like the night itself has draped a blanket of stillness across your body. You're not drifting into sleep yet, but you are approaching its edge, that soft place where thoughts lose their sharpness and become rounded, slow, and distant. You realize you don't need to push yourself toward rest. You don't need to achieve peace or earn calm. Simply arriving here, allowing yourself to pause, to breathe, to sit in a place where nothing is demanded of you, is enough. Rest isn't a reward for productivity. It's a natural return, something your mind and body have been wanting to offer you for far longer than you've allowed. As you breathe again, your body softens into the moment, and for the first time in a long time, you feel not just tired, but safe.
The wooden door across the room stands exactly where it always has, but now, in this deepening quiet, it feels different, less like an exit and more like a silent witness. Its grain lines stretch like old rivers, carved by years of wind, weather, and hands that once pushed it open. Yet the door does not lean toward you, nor does it pull you away from where you sit. It simply waits. And in that waiting, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Permission. Permission to stay. Permission to breathe. Permission to not move. You realize how often you've lived your days as if someone was always waiting on the other side of a door, demanding something, expecting something, needing something from you. But this door asks nothing. It neither urges you forward nor asks you to return. In its stillness, you see the reflection of a truth you've forgotten. It's okay for you to rest without earning it. It's okay for you to stop without explanation. The door remains closed, but for once, closed doesn't mean forbidden. It simply means you are not required to go anywhere, not tonight. With the soft glow of the lantern flickering beside you, your breath begins to settle into a rhythm that feels older than your body, slow, steady, patient. You are no longer breathing to calm yourself, or to reach a goal, or to release something. You are simply breathing because you are alive, and because life breathes through you. Each inhale arrives like a gentle tide rolling onto shore, bringing with it the cool quiet of the night. Each exhale moves like a soft retreat of water across smooth sand, taking with it the small tensions your body no longer feels the need to hold. As this rhythm continues, you feel less like you are controlling your breath and more like your breath is guiding you, inviting you into deeper rest, deeper softness, deeper presence. The effortlessness of it surprises you. You realize that peace doesn't need to be created, it needs only to be allowed. And in this room, in this moment, your breath finally has the space to become what it always wanted to be, a sanctuary. The lantern's flame dances inside its glass walls, casting warm ripples of gold across the floor. It flickers gently, as if responding to your breath, to your thoughts, to the slow unwinding happening within you. It doesn't brighten suddenly or dim with alarm. It simply listens. And in that steady listening, you feel seen in a way that doesn't make you self-conscious or exposed. The lantern doesn't judge the tiredness beneath your ribs. It doesn't analyze the small tremor of relief in your chest. It doesn't require you to be composed or strong. It simply holds its light, softly, the way you wish the world held you more often. In its glow, you understand something quietly profound. You don't need loud validation to feel supported. Sometimes, the gentlest presence, a warm light, a steady flame, is enough to remind you that you are not alone in the room or in your thoughts. The lantern listens, and in its listening, it teaches you how to be kinder to yourself.
Beneath you, the wooden floor feels solid, warm, familiar. You realize how long it has been since you've trusted something fully enough to lean your entire weight against it. But here, the floor doesn't creak under pressure or resist your presence. It simply holds you, completely, effortlessly. You let yourself sink a little deeper into that support, feeling the floor meet you exactly where you are without asking why you're here or how long you plan to stay. You begin to understand that real support feels like this, unforced, unconditional, steady, not because it wants something from you, but because it simply exists to carry what you place upon it. And as you let yourself relax more fully, your body realizes it doesn't have to stay half-ready anymore. Not tonight. The floor beneath you is enough. And as that truth settles into your bones, your muscles loosen in places you hadn't even noticed were tight. You exhale softly, trusting the ground again. Outside, the night deepens, but it does so without urgency. There is no pressure in its darkness, no insistence, no demand that you hurry toward sleep or clarity or understanding. The night simply stretches itself across the sky like a vast, quiet blanket, giving you all the time you need. And in that unhurried stillness, you begin to feel time differently, not as something slipping away, but as something that expands around you, giving you room to breathe, to rest, to exist without expectation. The night does not rush you because it knows something your mind often forgets. Everything unfolds in its own season, in its own rhythm, at its own pace. You feel soothed by its patience, by its willingness to hold the space you occupy without pushing you toward the next step. Tonight, you are allowed to move slowly, to think slowly, to feel slowly. The night waits for you, not as a test, but as an offering.
The window across the room catches the faintest glow of the moon, and a subtle breeze drifts through, brushing against your skin like a gentle reminder that the world outside moves at its own pace, and it does not need your consent to do so. The air carries the faint scent of distant rain, damp earth, and something indefinable that feels like home. You realize that you've been rushing through life in ways you didn't even notice, letting minutes slip past as though each one were a test to endure rather than a gift to inhabit. But tonight, the window is patient. It allows the air to enter softly, curling around your shoulders and brushing past your hair, bringing with it the quiet lesson that time does not need to be conquered. You can simply exist, and in existing, you are complete. Your thoughts begin to drift like the gentle breeze, not forced, not pushed, just following their natural path. And you understand that peace comes not from changing the world, but from letting the world meet you where you are, open, aware, and still. Beneath you, the old wooden floorboards stretch across the room, holding your weight with an ease that surprises you. Each plank carries the memory of countless footsteps, of people who once moved through this same space, each with their own stories, their own struggles, their own moments of quiet surrender. You feel a strange kinship with those unseen travelers as your body rests upon the same surface, letting it support you without complaint, without demand. The floor does not judge your haste or your hesitation. It does not measure how far you have walked or how long you have paused. It simply carries you, silently, steadily, as it always has. And in this, you sense a deep truth. Support is not earned. It is given freely when you allow yourself to receive it. You lean back slightly, feeling the gentle give of the wood beneath you, and you realize that all the burdens you've carried can be laid down, even for just this night, and stillness itself will hold them for you. The silence of the room grows richer with every passing breath, no longer empty but full of presence. It wraps around you like a familiar shawl, soft and warm, comforting yet unobtrusive. You notice that this silence does not demand attention, does not require a response, does not judge your thoughts or your past actions. Instead, it waits beside you, patient and unwavering, allowing you to simply exist in its company. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to respond to it. Your body relaxes into its embrace. Your mind lets go of the compulsive need to plan or fix, and your heart feels a subtle lifting of a weight it has carried for too long. The silence teaches you without words, guiding you to a place where presence is enough, where stillness itself is a form of quiet understanding. Here, with nothing but your breath and the soft night air, you finally meet a companion who requires nothing. And in that, you feel a completeness you have long sought. The moonlight spills through the open window, creating gentle patterns on the floor that shift with the slow flutter of your chest as you breathe. Each inhale draws the silver light closer, weaving it into your awareness, and each exhale
lets it ripple outward, brushing against the corners of the room like a gentle tide. The moon does not hurry, does not judge, does not impose its light. It simply flows where it will. And in that quiet rhythm, you feel yourself aligning. Your thoughts slow, your body softens, and for the first time in a long while, you notice the subtle connection between the sky above and the quiet presence within. The moonlight does not illuminate in order to reveal. It illuminates to accompany. It reminds you that peace is not about fixing or knowing, but about being present enough to notice that light exists, that quiet exists, that calm exists, and that you can move with it, step by step, breath by breath, until rest finally arrives. You sink deeper into the cushion, feeling the slow rise and fall of your chest as a guide, not an obligation. Each breath seems to stretch the room wider, expanding the space around you until walls and floor and ceiling become gentle companions rather than constraints. You no longer chase sleep, and you no longer chase peace. Instead, you follow the rhythm that has always been within you, trusting it to lead you where you need to go. Your thoughts drift like leaves carried on a stream, moving at their own pace, unforced, untethered, and you feel the subtle relief of letting them be. The night holds you as if it has always known you would arrive here, in this quiet space, in this gentle stillness. And as your breath continues, slow and steady, you understand without words that you are exactly where you need to be, not racing toward an end, not fearing a beginning, simply resting in the flow that carries you ever so softly toward your dreams.
A single candle flickers softly on a nearby table, its flame gentle and unwavering. You notice it without needing to look directly. Its warmth brushes against your awareness like a quiet companion. The candle does not demand attention, nor does it judge your wandering thoughts. Instead, it offers itself freely, inviting your focus only if you wish to give it. And in that simple presence, you feel a subtle clarity begin to emerge. Your mind, which often races ahead to past regrets or future worries, begins to soften, acknowledging that the candle has no need for hurry, no need for completion. Its slow, steady dance reminds you that patience is not passive. Peace does not arrive by force. It arrives when you allow yourself to witness what is already present. And your breath falls into rhythm with the quiet motion of the flame, steadying you as if you were part of its dance. Beside the candle, an old wooden chair sits in quiet acceptance, neither ornate nor bare, simply present. You feel drawn to it, though you remain on the cushion for now, sensing that it has held countless others through moments just like this. You imagine the chair's gentle support, its quiet willingness to carry weight without complaint. And in this imagining, you realize that support exists in more ways than one, not only in the objects or people around you, but in the spaces that allow you to pause without expectation. You breathe deeply, letting the presence of the chair and its patience fill a corner of your awareness. In that pause, your thoughts become less urgent, less tethered to outcomes. You discover that simply being cradled by a chair, by a room, by the night itself, is enough to remind you that rest is not earned. It is offered freely if you choose to receive it. A faint breeze drifts again through the open window, brushing against your skin and curling softly around your shoulders. It feels alive yet gentle, moving through the room with an invisible hand that seems to guide each thought you release. You exhale slowly, and the tension that has lingered in your muscles, small, persistent knots of worry and fatigue, begins to soften under the touch of the night air. With each breath, the breeze carries away the remnants of the day, not harshly, not violently, but like a river washing smooth the pebbles that have been held too tightly. You feel lighter, freer, and the weight of invisible burdens begins to slip naturally, leaving behind a quiet space within you. The air whispers without words, reminding you that release is not about effort. It is about allowing. In this moment, your body and mind find the rhythm of surrender, and you sense how deeply your own stillness can shape the calm around you.
As the night continues its quiet passage, let yourself settle fully into the stillness you found. Your breath, steady and soft, carries you deeper into calm, and your body feels lighter, freer, ready to rest. The lantern's glow fades gently into the memory of warmth. The floor beneath you holds you without effort, and the room becomes a quiet sanctuary for your mind and heart. Remember that the peace you've discovered here is always within you, waiting quietly for your return. Not earned, not demanded, just present. You can carry this gentle calm with you, wherever your thoughts or dreams may wander. Good night, and may your sleep be deep, unbroken, and filled with serenity. This is Sleepy Zen Story, wishing you a night of soft, restorative rest.